First things first, I know I said that it was podcast 80 last time. It was not. This is podcast 80. I was a little off. I was off by a day.
Yeah.
But I've learned two things today, Mother. One, always put the caps on bleach. And two, your boy is a phenomenal cook. I made
what'd you make?
my mom made me my mom gets us like these care packages because she thinks we're dying, so we get these steaks, right? You send us the Kansas City steaks. You're like, oh, you're malnourished. So I tried doing like a garlic with it's like turns out garlic butter is actually super easy to make. It's literally just 3 little cloves of garlic. I used parsley. I was looking for rosemary at the store today. I couldn't find it. Like, I ended up finding like one left, and it ended up being parsley. And the guy was like, "That's parsley, not rosemary."
Should I tell you that they make pre-made garlic butter at the store?
This was a little different. I wanted to do it the proper way, like actually cut the parsley fresh. I want it fresh, Mother. And I won't lie to you, I killed it. It was really good. I was like, wow, this is yeah. Turns out your boy's phenomenal cook.
You put on a steak? Is that what you did?
Yeah, I did one of those steaks that you got me.
Okay.
So pan-seared came out perfect. Mom, if you saw, listen, I'm not here to brag, but if you saw how I cooked this thing in the sense of the rarity and like how rare it was, Michelin star. I think any chef would have been like, what the hell? How is this kid? When I come home, I'll make it for you, which it sounds like I'm coming home next week. So we'll have to shoot a bunch of podcasts.
Those freaking years you were living in my basement, you couldn't make me one goddamn steak.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now that I have a little bit more of a schedule, it's a little easier to do. But yeah, that, and I also learned that my mom doesn't put the caps on bleach.
I do not think that was me. I still say that wasn't me. I think somebody used that bleach since I left the bleach there for you. Yeah. I don't believe it was me. I always put the cap on.
Hopefully no one in my apartment complex watches our podcast, because the story I'm about to tell you guys, I come home because I was like, I'm going to be an adult. I'm going to get detergent. I put it up on the top rack. So above my washer dryer is kind of a giant shelf that has like my detergents, my extra tissues, my whatever, kind of like cleaning supplies.
Pretty high up there. That shelf is pretty high up.
It's probably like, if I'm about 6 foot, it's probably like 6.5 feet. So you kind of have to reach up for it.
Yeah.
So I pushed the bleach out of the way, not knowing that the cap was only half on. And I literally punched it. Guys, it went all over the wall. Like the whole back wall, all the way down underneath. Luckily, it never came front, but Mom, I was when I basically panic called my mother, and because I wasn't sure what that was going to do to the paint on the wall, and I took so I was nervous because I tried cleaning recently because I had like some staining from that kitchen table that you got me. Remember that with the black staining?
Right.
And it got on the walls a little bit. So I used the Mr. Clean eraser to try and get it off. And I was literally taking the paint off the wall. So it's clearly like a cheap paint that they have. Right. It's slight. Like the second I checked.
Go too hard at it. Then.
Well, it's kind of like a scuff mark. It's not just paint. It's like a scuff mark that I made. So I knew I had to go a little hard on the paint. So it skimmed just about like a little bit. You barely even notice it. So I stopped because I was like, okay, we don't want to take the paint off. So I was like, oh no, what is this bleach going to do to my wall in there? Gosh. But I just checked it before. It's all dry and it looks fine. So
you've been there 1 month.
1 month, yeah. 1 whole month, and I'm already ruining the place. Yeah, I'm trashing the place. But all right, Mother. Anything new there?
Oh, did you get the smell out? Does it smell like bleach?
Like
Does the place reek of bleach?
Yes. I think.
Right. So you don't want to sniff that all night. So if you could
bleach,
like open a door or something. Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I said to wash it with lots of water.
That's what I did.
Dilute the smell and get it all. And if you have to open the door, and any towels you use, Chris, make sure you wash them.
Yeah, I used a dirty rag.
Don't leave them.
I actually didn't have to use any towels. I just used the dirty rag that I had, which was nice. It wasn't that much bleach, but I probably spilt 3/4 on the floor at least of this bottle that's like this big. But yeah, so all in all, went well.
Now you know bleach is a weapon.
Yeah, basically. I'm like, why would anyone ever wash with this? But
well, you do need it sometimes. You'd be surprised. Every now and then you need some bleach to clean something if it gets moldy or whatever. But anyhow.
Anything new in Jersey or not really?
No, I just painted all the hallway, the front door, the basement door, the closet door, the trim. So I did that the last couple days, and it was nice today. The sun finally came out. It's been overcast oh God, like for 2 weeks.
Yeah, Dad told me
So
that.
we had some sunshine.
Dad told me that you guys haven't seen the sun in like a week. It's just been a smog up
I
there,
know, it's
basically, of
impressive.
clouds. Here, sunny.
Yeah, it's very
perfect.
No, I'm sure.
Oh.
Apparently, no. My mother says it's freezing.
It's probably.
I don't think it's freezing there, Mom.
Yeah, I don't think it's dropped below 50. So I don't know what Grandma's talking about, but Aunt Sue is telling me that. Well, actually, I probably shouldn't say that if she didn't tell you. I won't say it, but Grandma was outside for a little bit today. So, yeah. Was it?
Yeah, we got to 50. It's very muddy, but Bob went outside and played ball twice today. So that was big. Hit the ball to him. But then the last couple days, just to give him something to do because he's been kind of mopey.
Right.
He still won't go up the stairs. We don't know what that is. We think it's psychological.
Yeah. So for our viewers that are wondering, he tore both his ACLs. Right now he's fully repaired, but I guess mentally he still doesn't want it. He likes being carried, you know.
We were carrying him a lot for a while there.
I won't lie to you, Mom. I've been looking at Munchkin kittens. I've been thinking about it. I'm looking at the Munchkin kittens with the little legs, Mom. They only get to this big, like this big, and they got legs like this big.
Remember, you can't go anywhere.
I know.
Look at us.
I have to bring them with me everywhere. But I always like how, like when you're looking at these breeders, they always say champion breed. I'm like, what the hell kind of champion has? What kind of champion has 2-inch legs? So
he can run the slowest out of all of them.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I don't know what makes it a champion or not, but speaking of champions, I don't know how to transition this one, but let's talk about the champions in New York City, aka.
Well, that's my theme, okay? Because
this is
for us here in the Northeast.
Yeah. So real fast, before we even get into this, I knew after looking at your articles today that this was gonna be a demonetizer. We were about to go off on immigration.
Demonetizing.
Oh no!
Why is it demonetizing? It's the news.
We'll have to see what YouTube says, but yeah. All right. Hold on,
what? It's just the news. I don't understand that. So anyhow, so these are 3 articles for people who I don't know if you've been following it, but I had to bring each one up because, so you got soft on crime madness meets a peak. Oh, we're going to start with that one. All right. So,
well, it all kind of goes together, right? Because the 4 that you sent me, I mean, we could start with this one because.
Well, the reason I start with that, I had that follow-up one for this one, but that's fine. So it looks like 8 Venezuelan asylum seekers. All right. Keep in mind, none of these people are asylum seekers because legally to seek asylum, you have to be leaving a country to come to America for violence of some sort, war or poverty or whatever.
But I believe,
and they've all admitted,
Mother, I believe also for an asylum, you have to leave to a country that is touching your current country. So like if you're in Mexico, you can only go up to the United States or below. Someone from Turkey can't come over to here because it wouldn't be considered being an asylee. You would be considered an immigrant. So
right. And it's never considered asylum. We have no law for an asylum seeker for economic reasons. And they're all admitting that they're coming for economic reasons. In other words, they want the freebies. Or they say they want jobs here in our country. Well, so do the people in Bangladesh, but they can't get here. Right. Or, so that's why we make the distinction. We did take in some Afghanistan asylees, but because it was, war torn, but it was more because of what the U.S. created by evacuating. Anyhow, so they're calling themselves asylees. These Venezuelans beat the crap out of 2 New York Police Department cops, kicking them all on video. They get released, no bail.
Yeah.
As they're released, they're giving people the finger, the news people the finger, and they go to California. Yeah. They flee to California.
Let me see if I can find the one that you're talking about because, I mean, when CNN hosts are surprised, that's kind of how you know. But right, these guys, like, this is the thing, they get completely off the hook on this one, completely, no charges, no nothing. They don't even bother to act like somewhat reprehensible, right? Like as if they just did a crime, literally. But again, this is only 4 out of 8 of them that got caught. from the ranges
Right.
of 16 to 24. Some were underage. I don't know how the underage ruling is on that. But then then we get back to what everyone else is saying, which is send them back. Oh, they're racist for wanting to send them back. Now we have this endless cycle of like, what do we do here?
They went to California.
Yeah.
So we can't do anything about it anyhow, unless somebody goes and finds them over there. But what I find stunning about this, and I sent you, you didn't post it, but I also sent you. If people remember, I think it was last spring, we
Yep,
talked about on podcast, Daniel Penny.
Is it this one? Yep.
Yes. Okay, so the man on the left is an ex-Marine who saved a bunch of people on a subway car from an erratic, scary, frankly, and threatening individual. He wound up putting him in a chokehold, and the man eventually died. There's some question as to whether his chokehold caused his death, whatever. He's still in prison, okay? And meanwhile, I've got 4 non-U.S. citizens beating the crap out of police officers in New York City, and they walk.
Yep.
They're not even going to face any consequences because they went to California. And look at the arrogance of these individuals because they know full well nothing's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
So if you add to that, that's why I sent that other article from CNN. So they had a crime analyst on CNN talking with the CNN people, and he stunned them with the fact, just stating the fact, that they go to New York because they're not going to get charged.
Right.
In Florida, they'd be arrested and they'd go to jail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's why they flee to California.
Yeah.
Right?
There's not much to add to this story for me because it's just so asinine that I have no, like, I feel like it's obvious what the problem is here. There's no opinion to this, right? Because I've been seeing on Twitter, even Elon does these polls on Twitter every now and then, and he was talking about if that judge that made this ruling should be, what's the word? Why am I struggling? Impeached, because you can impeach that guy. It's like 99% majority. It's insane.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's really sad in the sense that where's the New York Police Department? Where's the police commissioner? They should be outraged. It's bad enough we treat the police like, I mean, they're leaving and retiring in droves from these blue cities, especially New York.
Right.
There's nobody left. And to get beaten up like that on a camera, every police officer who's left should be outraged. They should be hunting these guys down, and they should be demanding that California find them and send them back for prosecution. But the district attorney, who is a useless individual in New York City based on the crime wave, supposedly claimed, I didn't read the article, that, well, we can't get a good recognition of them. Well, I see a pretty clear look of this guy as he's walking out. I can see his 2 middle fingers pretty clearly. So having said that, and then I laugh because what's the answer from New York City? We give them $53 million in prepaid credit cards.
This is an interesting one. Now, the way you said that says like they earned money from this, but my mother means this is a new program that they're doing, which I saw this the other day, which is they are giving literally prepaid credit cards to migrant families basically to kind of get on their feet here in America. Now, the problem with this, and this is twofold, right? The question is, Mother, is this a manipulation of we want these people who don't really understand credit cards to rack up debt that they're going to have to pay? Or
No. There's no debt, Christopher. It's not a credit card. It's a prepaid card.
Right.
And it's not to get them on their feet. These individuals are staying, the trial program is on 500 families, okay? So for example, a family of 4 gets $1,000 a month.
Right.
They could use it at any bodega, grocery store, supermarket, for any food items and baby food. They're supposed to sign an affidavit. Ha ha ha. These are illegals who came into our country. You think they care about signing an affidavit?
Mom, can you give the definition of an affidavit? Just because
basically saying, I swear that I am going to just use it at a food store for baby food. And you sign your name to it.
See, my brain, now hear me out, right? Let's see if I can predict what you're about to say. If I got $1,000 the first thing I'm going to do is bring it back to my country because $1,000 in USD is probably worth a lot back in my home country, right? Depending on where it is.
Some of them might actually do that. But the thought process behind this is, they already have free room and board. They're staying in the Roosevelt Hotel, which other reports have said they've been trashing many of them while they're there. Well, and they don't like the food that they've been given because it's not culturally appropriate.
Yeah.
So they'd rather throw the food out. So the answer to that from the geniuses in New York City is, well, we're going to give them each $1,000, which is cheaper than I think $11 they spend on every meal per person all day long. We're going to give them $1,000, let them go to the food store, and they can cook their own food.
Yeah, it's
Where
absolutely
exactly are they
insane.
cooking their own food? In a hotel room? But okay, that's beside the point. It's only a matter of time before they burn the Roosevelt Hotel down, and now we're all crying because all these poor immigrants were martyred because they were given food money. Anyhow, let's hope that doesn't happen. But this is, this is my crux of my discussions with you on these podcasts. People need to wake up.
So where does the money come from, Mother? That's what everyone's probably wondering, because you might have to take it back a little bit.
Taxpayers, New York City taxpayers. It's a fund that they set up that they've been paying out for these paying out meals. So they're claiming doing these prepaid cards, we're going to start it with 500 families, and eventually we're going to take it to 15,000 families. And they feel that it'll save them about $600,000 per month because that's how much they shell out for, by paying each meal for these individuals that they dump in the garbage anyhow because it's not culturally appropriate. I mean, It's just, the point is, it's just ridiculous on so many levels. I'm sorry. I don't know. When is enough?
It's when are you going to stop catering to people that aren't even part of our country, right? They're in our country, but they're not supposed to be here unless they're going through the whole immigration process. And then we go, oh, would you like to?
They broke the law to come here. They're illegal. They broke the law. They're criminals for doing it. They knew they did it, and they're claiming economic asylum, and that's baloney.
Well, Elon is always posting the statistics on how bad our immigration has gotten since Biden took office. Like, it's a crazy number. Since actually, one he posted recently was when it started with the Bush era, basically Bush, and how it just astronomically grew to where Biden is now, and it's just been millions and millions. I think it was like 10 million immigrants, maybe more now, which is a massive number. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, what do you do with them? But now, here's my other question. Is the 53 million, Mother, the 53 million with the 1,000 families that they're starting with, those 1,000 families aren't getting the 53 million, right?
500 families.
Right now it's 500?
Gets the $1,000 a month.
Right.
Every 28 days, their card gets replenished.
Right.
Okay? They're going to expand the program, if this works out well, to 15,000 families.
So how much money would that be? Let's see. Let's do some quick math.
Well, it's $53 million that they've targeted for this particular program.
Okay, so that's what I was asking. So the 53 million goes to the 15,000 families?
This is their launching of their program. Remember, it's an ongoing. So they're saying in 1 year, it's going to save them $600,000. In the article, I believe they talk about how much it's going to cost each year or what their estimate is, right? But they may scrap it after a year, right? Because they may find that they're spending it on alcohol or it's getting wasted, or
I have a feeling
what usually happens is there's fraud. It shouldn't be a program at all, in my opinion. And I suggest everybody watching your podcast, if you support this, whatever, that's fine. But that's not fair to the rest of American citizens who are living paycheck to paycheck and could use the $1,000 a month.
Or how about all the
Instead,
homeless?
They're going to get Instead, they're going to get taxed more to support these programs in New York State and New York City.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just the inevitability of our system starting to unfold, unfortunately. Right? I feel like we're doing this with a lot of things now, not just with the immigrants as well. I mean, you have the
I think we've come to the. I think we've come to the point. I don't know if they want to demonetize or whatever, but I think we've come to the point where the case is being made, even by mainstream media. This is an invasion of our country. This is no longer just immigration.
Yeah,
they're flooding in, and I was talking about it with you. I'd say there was legislation. Okay, I just want us all to think about it. I didn't do this article. There was proposed legislation that you can't bring a firearm when you come into our country over the border.
Right.
Okay, my head almost exploded because people are coming over with AR-15s.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's not. I think that I'll take it even one further. I think the fentanyl crisis is just as bad, if not way worse, than the weapons problem. right? I know if you look at this next
Well,
article that we're
yes,
talking
I
about.
agree, but hold on a minute. Fentanyl's been going on for a long time now. I get it. That's a huge crisis. That's been a crisis for years in this country, and people need to wake up.
Right.
But just understand, and you know this well, Christopher, I can't take a gun from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. It's against the law. But supposedly an asylum seeker is leaving their country for economic reasons. They're coming over with AR-15s.
For defense,
Who are we
mother.
kidding here?
Yeah.
This is an invasion, and we need to, enough Americans are starting to see it. But the question is, what are we doing about it before something really bad happens? And we've got some real tension down there in Texas, as
right.
everybody knows.
I was just going to bring that up because you and I actually didn't talk about that when we were when we did the podcast. I think our first Discord podcast. So a couple weeks ago, the federal government, right, ruled that Texas is not allowed to basically defend their borders the way they want to, which I believe is state by state.
It went to the Supreme Court,
Right.
and the Supreme Court, two of the members, voted against it because, which swayed the court, obviously, for a temporary halting of the removal of the border. And they said, no, the federal government can remove it. It was a temporary order that they ruled on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably more to it. But the point is, Texas says, hell no. We absolutely have the right to do it under the Constitution, and we're going to do it.
Right.
So there's an issue with that with the Supreme Court in their ruling. And, it's getting to the point where nobody listens to the Supreme Court anymore. So, why should Texans?
Right.
Right?
But yeah.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but
if it's constitutional and the Supreme Court's overruling the Constitution, what do you do? Like,
you do the same thing that's been done all along. The states have the right to protect their borders.
right.
Okay? And in their case, they're being overrun. This is an invasion. And I would just like to point out, I also sent you a clip from Cheryl Atkinson.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
1 second.
Okay. Cheryl Atkinson, she used to be a CBS News reporter. I think she might still be there, but she does more online stuff. This kind of slipped through, and even I agree with her. And I'm just going to read it verbatim because heads will blow up over this. It's been going on for a while,
Right.
and it's got no attention. I never understood why this news didn't trigger international headlines, congressional hearings, and prosecutions of U.S. officials. Quote, prosecutors admit U.S. signed a cooperation agreement with the Sinaloa cartel leader, dismissed a major case against the Sinaloa cartel lawyer, Humberto Loyola Castro, and agreed to, quote, not interfere with the cartel's drug trafficking to U.S. or actively prosecute their leadership.
Yeah. But this isn't obviously it's terrible, but when you look at the CIA and how they've had some ties to a lot of the stuff in Mexico, China, I'm not really surprised by this. Were you surprised by this?
I am very surprised that I didn't hear anything about this. I'm very surprised that people in our legislation aren't outraged about this. Or I would like to know what the story is. I can't even tell what year this is from. But we have, so recently, unfortunately, 3 service members were killed over in Iraq, right? They just brought their bodies home. Okay. A lot of questions starting with, why the hell are they over there in the first place?
Yeah.
But that's a whole other issue, right? We all pause. We all feel badly that 3 service members were killed. And I've got all sorts of politicians boasting, how dare they, you'll pay a price for killing an American, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
We have 150 U.S. citizens that die every day in this country because of gang violence and from illegal immigration. Not to mention the 100,000s that die, I think, every year from the drugs coming over the border. And for people saying, oh, they turn a blind eye. Now take it in context with this clip from Cheryl Atkinson, where my own government is agreeing not to interfere with that drug trafficking.
Right. It says starting as early as 2004, so it's clearly been here for a while. But I don't know what I'm sure there's more details to it than just this little paragraph here, but I'm not surprised by it because I look at the opioid pandemic and the poppy field parts of when we went into the Iraq war. Like when you realize how much opium we got from that war, you kind of quickly realize that a lot of these wars and a lot of these like pseudo wars, like the U.S. versus the cartel, for instance, how many of these wars aren't actually over what the mass media knows. It's usually over drugs or over some kind of other power. So a lot of times it's oil. We know that.
Again, who the hell are these cartels to be bringing their drugs and marketing their drugs to our citizens and making billions with
Of
a B
dollars,
dollars?
Yeah.
And now our government is complicit, killing American citizens based on this. There's a lot of questions with this, and I put this to the forefront above, any $53 million credit card business or prepaid card that they do in New York City. That's asinine enough. Okay.
Well, it sounds like that New York City judge or lawyer, whatever you want to call him, he's getting a lot of shit right now for it because he thought, I guess, more people would be on his side for that one, just like letting these guys off the hook, as well as the prepaid stuff and blah blah blah. But he is just getting slandered by everyone right now.
New York City's crime is through the roof,
Yep.
which people say, oh, New York's always been bad. I am totally shocked at the things that I am seeing going on in New York City. It's like a dystopian hell. It really is. I mean, I just...
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And it's disgusting is what it is. I mean, it was bad enough in the Dinkins years where people were getting mugged on the streets. Okay, everybody got mugged in New York City. It was just a regular thing. The stuff that is going on is like mind-boggling to me. It's mental illness, walking around, doing disgusting things. And on top of that, the crime, literal crime. Of course, this guy, Bragg is his name. Instead of wasting time prosecuting ex-presidents and their real estate, maybe you start bolstering the New York Police Department. But guess what? Until the citizens start saying they've had enough, right?
Right.
It's not going to change. They'll just keep doing it. That's why I say I'm hoping the beating of New York police officers in public and people walking from that, right? Now, there used to be heavier penalties that you would get if you killed a New York police officer, if you were prosecuted.
Oh, yeah.
It was heavier than just killing a citizen, which is bad enough. Something like this, as I said, if the New York Police Department doesn't stand up, the commissioner and everybody and the union, if they don't stand up and say, this has to stop and it has to stop now, you get a new district attorney. That's you go to the governor, the mayor, and everything. You get a new district, you kick this guy out because we can't have this. It's through the roof. But if New Yorkers keep voting these same people in, et cetera, I just look at it like all this money, time, and energy spent on people. Guess what? Time we start saying, no, we're not paying it at all.
Yeah.
Go back to the country you came from. Come to our border the way it's supposed to happen. Enough is enough. But now you see where our government's perspective is with something as you would think is blatantly obvious. Of course you don't let the cartels in. Oh, we signed an agreement with them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
For those of us and our families who have lost people to drug overdoses in this country, which is far too many of us nowadays,
Yeah.
I'm outraged when I see that.
Yeah. Well, hey, Mom, if they don't like the food, all they have to do is get Chuck E. Cheese's new cookbook.
Nice segue.
Chuck E. Cheese is releasing a cookbook. Yes, you read that correctly. This is perfect for him, huh? This is perfect.
Yep.
Now, Mother,
Yeah,
here's a
you
question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
Just look.
Should I
Scroll down,
buy this cookbook?
show the first paragraph. I love what
The
the person wrote. If you've ever been halfway through a slice of pizza at a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant and thought to yourself, man, I wish I could make this for myself at home, then first off, please get in touch because you are the kind of human being we'd like to
Interrogate.
And second, you're in luck because now you can. I just laughed when I saw that.
Yeah. So
All those days I spent at Chuck E. Cheese eating a damn pizza with you guys.
Oh, I used to love the Chuck. Dude, when you go back and you look at the cheese pizzas, remember there was a huge scandal a couple years ago, Mother, where there was like a whole conspiracy theory around Chuck E. Cheese like recycling pizza. So like let's say you and I, because like they were showing pictures of like it wasn't perfect circles anymore, like some of the slices were a little off. So they thought that when people weren't like finishing entire pizzas and they take it away, they would just recycle it in the next pizza. So Mom, this conspiracy went on for like a year, and then Chuck E. Cheese was like, no, this is not right. And then because it really got bad, like they were checking other places like Pizza Hut doing the same thing. But
Oh, gross.
yeah, one thing is about this cookbook is it's not just the pizza, thank God. There's other things. It's kind of like, it's more like snacks and stuff if you actually look at it. So
Yeah,
you
it's
got Pigs in
128 pages.
Yeah.
128 pages. It has all the Chuck E. Cheese characters and all their goodies that they have on their menu that you can make yourself at home. And then eventually, it's called the Chuck E. Cheese and Friends Party Cookbook. I guess you can see it. Yeah. Soon they're going to come out with a coloring book.
How much, Mom? Now here's a question for our viewers. When I get home, I don't know when it comes out, but do we go through the book and get some of the best and see how it is? We'll taste test it.
Sure.
Yeah, we could probably
Don't get it for my birthday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hold on, let's see real fast. I want to check. I don't want to show anyone, but let's see. What's it called? Chuck E. Cheese
Chuck E. Cheese and Friends Party Cookbook.
Party.
Probably like $10.99.
Let's see. How much
I
does it
give them
cost?
credit though.
When does it come out? March 19th. Damn.
Yeah.
We got some time.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could get it now, but
I
that's a
give them
shame.
credit because I don't know how well the business is doing anymore, since especially with COVID and everything. I'm sure
Right.
I don't know if they got back to the levels that they
COVID.
used
You're telling
to,
me those
but-
freaking tunnels were in a freaking germ fest? If you didn't die from those, you had COVID immunity. Are you kidding?
Every time we went, I felt like they always had to close them down because
Yeah.
somebody
Why are there
gets
puddles
diaper-
in here? Yeah. Why are there puddles in these tunnels?
Oh no, we're
And
gonna
then
get
you
scared
go,
by Chuck E. Cheese.
and then you're like, oh man, why is my knee all wet? And then you realize that little
Ew.
Timmy in front of you just took a piss. Why is it dripping down the slide at the end?
Ew.
No, but we had, I vaguely remember our Chuck E. Cheese. We had
Wally.
yeah, you had the ball pit. It's like, this ball's brown and mushy.
Ew.
But, no, we had a pretty, I vaguely remember that Chuck E. Cheese. I haven't been there in decades, but like, I just remember that Chuck E. Cheese was pretty cool with all the tunnels and stuff. I felt like it was pretty well developed in comparison to most Chuck E. Cheeses.
Right.
I would like to go back to that one just to see how much it's changed, if that makes sense. Like how
Still
much,
there.
yeah, it's still there after 30 years. So,
It hasn't changed at all. They haven't washed it. They
yeah,
haven't-
yeah.
No, I'm
There's still
kidding.
that same
Don't
mask.
sue us, Chuck E.
There's still
Cheese. I'm
that
just
same
kidding.
mascot that takes his head out with a in front of the kids. He's in the corner just chain smoking.
I was going through all the old videos. We've had a few Chuck E. Cheese parties in our day, I have
Oh,
to say,
yeah.
with the 20 tables lined up and each kid had
The one guy that's just with the Chuck, yeah, doesn't want to be there. Yeah,
Oh God.
the good old times, the good old times. But actually, I don't. To your point, this is a great idea for Chuck E. Cheese to do this. But it's also a good idea for like those, if it's simple and easy, which I'm sure they put a lot of money into it to make sure that it's like perfect in that regard, especially if it's like their next big product. I'm sure like these are going to be good for, like, let's say you're just a mom that's having, you're the single mom that said, hey, I'm bringing, my kid's having a birthday party at my house. let me bring
I'm
out the Chuck E.
surprised they
Cheese.
didn't do Chuck E. Cheese like food you could pick up at the food store.
Yeah, there's got to
I
be.
guess it would cut into their parties, but then again, if people make it at home, you can do it at home.
You know
They
why?
package-
For one, Mom, it's probably you're probably for the cost of like, hey, we don't have to sell and mass produce the actual foods
Yeah.
when we could just make a
Right.
cookbook. But also, I'm sure there's FDA approvals that they don't want to deal with. They're like, hey, this isn't real pizza, right? This is literally spray
lot
on
of that.
cheese. Yeah. This is spray on cheese. So that's what I mean. I think there is kind of a niche for this, which is going to be, hey, my kids are from the ages of 3 to 10. And instead of taking them to a $100 shitty pizza place with games, I can just
Well,
whip out the
I
cookbook.
would say, even my Italian friends, since we were stuck there anyhow, I do recall some saying, "Hey, you know, the pizza's not that bad."
That sounds like Mrs.
I don't
G.
know, just because we were desperate because we were stuck there for 2 hours while our kids were running around, and it was like eating out of boredom. But sometimes the pizza, we're like, okay, the pizza's not that bad. You know, it's edible. We can eat the pizza.
All right, our first YouTube meetup when we have crazy like a huge number of fans, Chuck E. Cheese. That's where we're
Yeah.
gonna host it. But
Right at the Chuck E. Cheese with the tunnels.
You would think I would have gone to a Dave and Buster's by now, considering like I'm a big gamer and stuff. But I've never been to a Dave and Buster's. But I mean, it's like adult Chuck E. Cheese. But
yeah, with alcohol.
I always wonder how that is. So
never been to one.
Yeah, again, we're not really a Dave and Buster's Chuck E. Cheese family anymore.
Well, I think your brother's been to one. I think one of your brothers went to one. I'm not sure.
If anything.
No, I thought actually it was Mike, but okay.
I can ask him.
I don't know. Yeah.
So, all right. What else?
I think that's all I had for my articles, right? Was that it for me?
Yeah, all of you had 6 on just immigration. So we kind of plowed through. It was a theme. It was a theme. I'm sure.
So my podcasters, please, all you guys listening, please, you have to take this seriously. I'm saying this as a mom, as an American citizen and as a mom. This is getting out of control now. And with the cookbook, get the cookbook, sit down and chat about how we're getting screwed here. And maybe they should give a free Chuck E. Cheese cookbook with every prepaid card.
Yeah. Dear God, the backbone of America runs on Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay. They don't like our cultural food now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Here's a heroin addict mouse and all of his pals. Oh God. But I wonder back to on a serious note, I wonder what's going to happen in New York in the next 3 years, because I think that's all it's going to take. New York's getting 2, and I mean you could say that about any big city right now. All of the big cities that are falling apart happen to be Democratic run. Just throwing that out there. So again, how long until the people in those cities go, hey, we need a drastic change here? Like how long is that? I don't know when it is. I don't know what changes it.
Interesting enough, the city was, like I said, it was going in decline. Nothing like we see today, but it was pretty bad. And Rudy Giuliani, the guy everybody makes fun of now, he was Mr. Mayor. He came in and he cleaned it up. He prosecuted people. He threw people in jail. You break the law. He did stop and frisk. And the irony is he did stop and frisk mainly because those neighborhoods, let's say minority neighborhoods, wanted it.
Yeah.
They were tired of the crime. They didn't want to be, it's not Park Avenue. It's not Fifth Avenue. These were the boroughs, the outside boroughs and the areas where those individuals they don't mind stopping.
He was also
a lot of problems.
Yeah, he was also dealing with mafia though. And that's kind of a big factor. Like mafia is a little different than just gang violence, because they're deep rooted in a lot of things.
No, but Giuliani, he really used the RICO that they're using on President Trump. He did that to really control the mafia influence in the city. But I think he did that as a district attorney. Mm-hmm. The being mayor was after that. And he step by step did what needed to be done. He was also, unfortunately, the mayor during 9/11. And, nobody knew, as far as we know, nobody knew what was going on. But anyhow, that's what usually happens. It gets so bad that finally, enough of the liberal minds in New York City decide, okay, we'll put somebody in, we'll control it. And then once he does, they bash him, or they bash him for being too, extreme to this, to that. And the pendulum swings the other way. But when he got in there, he cleaned up 42nd Street, got rid of all the pornography. He cleaned up Broadway. You felt safe walking there, which, what does that mean? Increases tourism, which brings in tax dollars, brings in money. Right. All these businesses are going to start to close, like you see in many of these other states.
Yeah. Mom, was Rudy Giuliani considered a Republican at that time?
Yes.
Okay. I always wonder. I've never asked that, but I always wonder where he was politically at that point, since everyone kind of flip-flops now, or they're just their party in name only. So, yeah.
Well, keep in mind, everybody loved Rudy Giuliani up until the time he got involved with
Trump.
President Trump.
Right. Yeah, weird one, but... All right, Mom. Big news that we kind of announced last week. So we talked about a big topic of our podcast last week was literally how far VR is going and how the advancements it's had the last couple of months realistically, and now all this year. So Apple just launched their new VR set, which is incredibly overpriced, but it is incredible on how it works. I have not got to try it yet, but Mom, I have seen
How do you know it's incredible?
I have friends that have it already. So, and they're telling me, like, if these friends are telling me, that's how I know it's good, because they're the ones that'll destroy everything. But they launched the Apple headset. I don't know how much you've seen on this thing, Mom, but
No.
I mean, we are officially in AR. Marquise Brownlee did a great video on YouTube about it. It's like a full breakdown on the pros and cons of it. Mom, we're there. We're there. We're in the virtual world now. We're at the point where we have pretty much seamless AR augmented reality. Downside is the thing's kind of heavy, but that's besides the point.
You get CTE from you.
Yeah, basically your neck, you have neck issues for the rest of your life. That's gonna, yeah, dear God, comes with a battery pack that straps to you, basically. But yeah, this is actually a huge. So the other day, Mom, I was watching the initial YouTube video of when Steve Jobs announced the original iPhone. And, you know, you're watching it and you're like, oh, man, this was actually a huge moment in history. Like, because this was the changing of, this was the first real smartphone, right? This is the one that had, it was the all-in-one phone. And you look back on it, you're like, holy shit, we were like part of history. This was a big moment that we just kind of overlooked. And I think this is kind of the next step of that. Yes, we've had our Oculuses. Yes, we had our HTC Vives. But this one is the first fully AR one. So the pros right now is basically how great it is in the sense of the seamlessness, what you can do with it, like in the sense of it hooks to your Mac. You have your whole ecosystem, as you know, the Apple ecosystem. But the real downsides are there's just not that many apps for it. Now, here's why this is a good thing, right? That means that the price point of $3,500 is bound to go down. It has to, which of course happens with all technology. But this really opens the gate of like everyone in the VR space is going to try and dive bomb on this. Now, Apple is the king of patenting everything, right? They've always been like that. But this opens the gates to like, hey, where can we... Okay, let me put it this way. This was a huge leap from where we were before. Now it's pretty much public use. So now this kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, that again, Mom, we do these predictions that are just so amazing. I know. Where basically we were saying, when do we get to the point where it's an everyday use thing for people who aren't into video games? Boom, there it is. That's a week later, Mom. We're like oracles.
Soothsayers. Yeah. But basically, oracle, soothsayers. The only comment I would make is it's Apple. They never come down in cost. What they'll do is they'll have a new version that's $3,600 and a new version updated. Maybe the secondary market, when people start selling these because they upgrade to the newer version, that's $4,000. These might go to the secondary market and you might see them for, I don't know, $34.99.
Yeah.
$3,500. Yeah. It is Apple. They don't usually cut their costs. They'll create another product and charge more.
I'm going to take you a different route, right? Here's why this is. So I'm going to take it the different way of when you actually look in the past, probably like 5 years, I would say, of Apple products, the difference between the cheap version and the more expensive version isn't really that different. Like maybe a minor change. So it's actually more so like, why wouldn't you buy the cheaper version? And that's because they know that people aren't techie and don't know the difference. But if I was to take the two, like the old days, the difference between the MacBook and the Mac, there was an astronomical difference between the two where it's like a completely different computer. Nowadays, the only difference between your MacBook Air and Kenny's MacBook Pro is like maybe 2 more flash drive ports. It's not much different. So that's what I mean.
But that was my point. They'll add, think of all the iPhones that every person had to upgrade. When the iPhone 10 came out, I got the iPhone 10. I got the 11 because the camera's different or something silly like that. Whereas to do what it needs to do, you'd be perfectly fine with the iPhone 7.
Absolutely, yeah. But this is where we get to the gray area of, like, if you asked me, what would the next iPhone do? So if you said, Chris, what's the iPhone? I don't even know what we're on anymore. 16. What would happen if what is the iPhone 16 going to have? Like, what's going to be different? So instantaneously, I'm going to tell you better cameras, probably, or more cameras, faster in certain ways, blah, blah, blah. But if you would ask me what's the next step in VR, I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know what it is. So that's what I mean. This is like this is finally the wall that we had to break to get to augmented reality for everyone.
Okay, but I think,
I don't know what the next step is.
But I'm sure Apple does. I'm sure they have an entire team has already
Yeah.
mapped out the next 10 years of where they're gonna go with this product, so they never have to charge less than $3,500.
Right.
And they'll appease all these young people that, the economic divide in this country, all those young kids that are like, I have to have it for $4,000 because it has a special camera inside it that blah blah blah,
Yeah.
or it allows my phone to interact, blah blah blah. So I'm sure they have a regular, idea of okay, next year we're going to introduce this, 2 years we're going to do this, with a marketing plan for it, exactly how it's going to happen.
Yeah. So I think this is a huge step, no matter how we look at it. We can talk about pricing and stuff. That's a whole different conversation. But this is the floodgates, mother. This is the floodgates of AR to VR, I believe. So it's
Okay.
actually pretty exciting. Like I've been watching a lot of videos on it. Again, you're a little limited in what you can do because it's the first phase of it, basically. So essentially,
Right.
all it does right now is obviously you can do your calls, your screens. You can do your MacBook on your like a big screen rather than your little laptop thing. And then there's a couple apps for it that are like, oh hey, how big is an elephant? And it'll give you a room scale, which is pretty cool.
Right.
Um, but besides that, there's not much of a point to it right now. I don't know what the gaming aspects are of like what can you do with it on a more virtual reality level. But one thing that's really cool in my opinion, Mom, and maybe you'd like this, is you can completely change your environment. So let's say, so as you have the full pass through so you can see everything around you, let's
Yeah.
say you want to get out of that. There's like a little dial that's like, oh, you can sit on the moon and it encompasses you. It's pretty cool. So that,
Yes.
but again, $3,500 for that, plus tax, plus other fees. I'm sure it comes out to probably like 3,800. I don't know if it's worth it just yet, but as I said,
You know what it reminds me of? When the first traveling on mobile phone came out. It was like a little
yeah,
bag with a phone on it. When it first came out, everyone was like, "Oh, this is the future. This is it. This is great." And they weren't wrong. But the irony was, who are you gonna call?
yeah. There's 5 people that have it.
That's
Yeah,
the phone, right?
right.
So that was kind of funny. These people walk around with it. There's only like a handful of people in the world that they can call with this phone. It took a while for more people and for the technology to get better and become more, universal and
Right.
more people having access. And to your point, the iPhone revolutionized it. Now everybody could have the smartphone. But it was just kind of funny how, same thing with the VR. It's great, but there's really not a lot of games, and it's not like I'm interacting. If I could bring other platforms on, like my MacBook and my
Yeah.
iPhone, okay, that's a different story. But
Right.
yeah,
I think so. If you were to ask me what the biggest advancement is, it's the fact that now we don't have VR headsets and AR headsets. Now we have both in
right,
one, which is pretty
right,
impressive. So, and again, I'm more impressed by the fact that the Oculus is probably only 8 years old, like the original VR that I have,
yeah,
maybe 8 years old. And now we're already at the point where we have seamless augmented reality at this
right.
point.
Got to
So,
keep that. It might be worth money someday.
oh yeah, I'm gonna keep mine. I plan on getting the new one pretty soon, just because I have to upgrade, because mainly for space. And as you said, they're getting cheaper. So the new one, think about this: the new one, this kind of goes to technology as we were just talking about. The new one is the exact same price as the original one that I have,
No,
right? So, well,
this is
now mine's
$3,500.
this is Apple, the Oculus, so that's the Meta one.
Oh, you go back to the Oculus? I thought you're sold on the Apple one. I thought
No,
that
no,
one
no.
was better.
I think here's my thing. The Apple one's cool. I'm waiting for another company to do the same thing so I don't have to buy the Apple version. Someone's going to
Oh,
do
okay.
it. It's just a
Right.
matter of when is it, and it's going to be cheaper than 3,500. Right?
Gotcha.
So I have, and also for me, the only Apple device that I use is my laptop, which I really only use for work outside of YouTube, and then my iPhone. Other than that, it's kind of pointless for my desktops until there's apps that like add to it.
Right.
So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so it'll be cool, but the only thing that I could think of for me is if I was able to do a fourth screen above my monitor. So I have my 3 monitors in front of me, and then I could do one large one above that's like my TV or something, and then put that in augmented reality. But then it's like, how long do I want to keep a screen on my face for? I don't know how the comfort and stuff is on it, but I just know it's heavy.
I'm telling you right now, it's going to do something to you.
Oh yeah, your neck's gonna get like,
No, just in general. It's either going to make people's brains squirrely. Something, there's going to be, you just can't, people are going to take it to extreme. They're going to use it too long, too much, too often, too everything. And it's funny because like you tell me this and I look at it like, all right, I don't need it. It could be interesting to try, but I don't need it.
Right.
It's kind of like how we all looked at cell phones when they first came out. Oh, that's kind of neat. I don't need it because, we've never had cell phones. I've survived. Our mother survived. Our father, we didn't have this. Now, all of a sudden, everybody has to have one. You have to have a cell phone. That's a crisis.
Yeah.
So I guess they're going to market it in such a way that by pushing it and use it all the time, and you can do everything all day long, just never take it off and then take it off. And then you get to the point where, well, now I have to have it because everybody's doing everything in augmented reality. And then we'll find out that it's a problem.
Yeah,
I just saw something recently. Somebody just threw it out there. It was not a conspiracy theory, but it was something with the FDA or one of the agencies that said they were talking about something other questionable, and they threw in, anybody know why they stopped out of the blue with their research on cell phone and brain cancer? Like, I never knew that study, wherever it was done when these people threw it out there, was just stopped for no reason. Nobody knows why. They just stopped
I
doing
figured
that
they
study.
ran out of funding or something for that.
Could have been that or whatever, but you would think that that's a pretty major thing to not follow through and dump some money into, because that's kind of an odd that it just dropped. But anyhow, so same thing with virtual. They're going to push it, which they have the right to do. But you watch, we're going to find out that, oh, this is a problem.
Yeah.
All these people now living in the virtual reality world, they're screwed up. No
the only
kidding.
one that I can think of, like, you don't want to have a screen on your face all day, right? There's got to be something for the eyes adjusting that much.
Right.
To your point, there is something. I just don't know. We're gonna have. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of studies with the Apple Vision Pro or whatever it's called.
Well, and we just talked about it in the last podcast. There are things embedded in these games, these whatever platforms you're using, let's say games, that trigger dopamine, endorphins, and stuff in the brain. And if it doesn't get enough of it, so it's almost like every time it chimes, every time there's an upgrade, every time there's a blip noise, after a while your brain waits for it, and then it starts to get depressed because it's not getting as many of them, right? So there's this whole biophysical response to specifically gaming. I can only imagine when people are wearing a headset all day.
Yeah.
They go to work, they wear it. They go home, they put it on. I mean, it's not. That's definitely not organic. I'm sorry.
I think we have many, many years before we get to that fully immersed world where you can't tell the difference between reality and non-reality. I think we have many, many. I don't even know if we'll hit that in my lifetime, but again, for the most part, I don't think we have to worry about that as much, because it's still not at the point where it's a necessity. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, but that's what I mean. Like cell phones, how long did it take for them to become a necessity? Nobody had cell phones. When you were little, nobody had cell phones.
Right. Well, I
we didn't
I think the difference is VR and AR as of right now. The cell phone was kind of important because now it's a moving cell phone, right? It's a moving telephone, I should say, right? You can have a call wherever. Whereas I feel like nowadays with VR and AR, it's not so much about the necessity. It's more so about streamlining workflow. And I feel like that's kind of the point of all this technology breakthrough. Does that make sense?
Well, cell phones weren't originally marketed to kids and families.
Oh, yeah.
They started as a business thing. Oh, you can do business on the road. You could do business in the car.
Right.
You could do it here. Blah, blah, blah. So that's how they start everything. I mean, that's to make the money, to make it work, you got to ingrain it. And you have to make somebody, and that's marketing 101. Make a person believe that they have to have it, that they need it for some reason. You create that need, and they'll spend the money on it. Cell phones, the same mentality. Nobody had them.
Yeah,
I
see this.
Think that before you would leave, it wasn't. You'd have to say to yourself, "Oh, hey, I'll go take my cell phone when I was going out." Now it's the opposite. You get in the car and you're like, "Where's my cell phone?" You have to have it. They created that need, and guess what? You don't have to have it. We still don't have to have it. We've just, generations went by without having a cell phone.
Yeah, I see this kind of as a $3,500 beta test. Because, again, there's not much to it right now in the sense of what you can do with it. It's really just for, realistically, the whole reason for it is just to duplicate your Mac screen on a 4K monitor that in front of you. So as of right now, that's really all it's good for in some minor apps. But Yeah, it's just impressive that we just opened the big barrier in technology that we've been waiting to break. That's why it's so important. So we're
Right.
there, but the use case for it isn't quite developed yet. So yeah,
Right.
that's
Interesting.
my exciting news. So let's go to this one before we go into some minor gaming stuff. What are the enhanced games Olympic style competition for performance enhancing drugs? So mother, they're doing an Olympics now, which is only steroids. This is what we've been waiting for, mother.
Oh my God.
So someone, I don't know if this might have just been they don't have it in the article, but I saw a commercial for it. And apparently they have a guy that not shattered, but beat Usain Bolt's record, but he's enhanced, right?
God.
So yeah, I thought this was pretty. So what are your thoughts on this? Because this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Now I'm going to bring politics kind of into this, which I know we shouldn't, but whatever. So when we talk about trans sports, like when people transition and they shouldn't be competing. If you're a woman, you shouldn't be competing in men's, vice versa.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing with steroids, right? So you have steroids in sports now, obviously. I mean, look at LeBron. He's 39 and he's still somehow able to keep up with 25-year-olds. So you know something's going on there. But now you have like an open platform for steroids. So I'd like to see this, mother. I'm excited.
I don't know.
I would rather watch
I
it. Go ahead.
I'm old fashioned in the sense that I like the human being who just through his or her own grit, determination, and dedication and discipline. I know. I mean, as we said, if you're gonna allow it, you have to allow everybody, right? And there are some people out there that don't want to do performance enhancing drugs. You know, it doesn't mean that much that they would rather achieve the stuff without pumping stuff into them. Okay. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's got to be all or nothing. Either everybody gets to do it or no one gets to do it.
Right.
If they're going to say, okay, let's see, it's all marketing too. If these games are more interesting, exciting, if they're doing phenomenal things that your average athlete can't do unless they're on these steroids, then, if it draws attention and people want to see it, okay, then they'll probably make it universal.
Yeah,
everybody can do the performance enhancement.
I wonder what the astronomical differences will be. Because as I said, every sport that's out there, I know most people don't want to believe it, but take the MLB, take the NFL, people are using performance enhancing and drugs. There's entire teams that on each team, like a science department for like the Eagles or whatever, their job is to be ahead of the curve when it comes to drug testing. There are guys that do that. So there's drugs all over sports. You just don't know about it. It's not public.
Right.
Mainly because they can't test for it. But with a performance enhancing Olympics, here's the problem, right? With something like this, because now you've made it a competition of who can get as big as possible and become inhuman. So who's the most inhuman? You're going to have a lot of medical issues, right? With something like that. You're going to have people that are like, so I can do half the work, do some steroids, or I can work my ass off and do all the steroids and be the craziest man on the planet or woman on the planet. You're going to have some issues. You're cutting lifespan. But if I can bet on it on DraftKings, Mom, are you kidding me?
Well, but now here's the other thing. Are they going to regulate how much? Are they going to regulate what kind?
You have to, right?
Are they going to... Right, and it doesn't become, well, you have to take a certain amount to qualify for a certain race, or there's a minimum and a maximum amount you could take. And now, what do? You gotta regulate it before every race. They all have to pee in a cup before they get on the line. It's just kind of once you open up that floodgate.
Yeah.
No
Because
pun
it's like
intended.
how do you to your point, like how do you manage that? Like let's say you do make a sport and you can bet on it. Do I bet on the guy that has more testosterone in him? Do I bet on the guy that has 25 milligrams of Decaball rather than the guy that's on 5 milligrams of Anavar? Like, how do you do those bets? So I think it's an interesting idea. I just don't think that this is going to be easy to regulate.
No, I don't think it will be. And I just, it gets back to there are so many of those enhancement type drugs. My feeling is it affects different people differently, right? Some it might stimulate them more than others. Now you're going to have a whole science behind muscle development and when to introduce these, the timing of it in order to maximize the benefit, because I assume it works in conjunction with working out, with developing your muscles and whatnot.
Right.
A person has to maintain it. Okay. And then what do we do, to your point, when people start having reactions to it? Who's now
Yeah.
liable?
You gotta look
They
at
are, their
yeah.
trainer. You know, it's like football with CTE. Now we're all complaining because the sport got more violent. Well, you know, and the helmets weren't working, or it's been a problem. That's what happens when these things get out of control. And now who are you going to blame? The trainer? If it's the Olympics, what does the whole U.S. Olympic team get blamed and sued because they overstimulated athletes, or now they're becoming aggressive?
Right.
I don't know that there's enough research done on steroids, to be honest. Long term. Everyone thinks it's great now and it's doing all these things and it's perfectly fine and it's organic and blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Have we not learned that when you put stuff in the human body,
That's not
it
supposed to
has
be
an
there.
effect?
Yeah.
Can be positive, can be negative. You know, we are, I use the term a lot tonight, we're organic.
Right.
And when you throw things in there and it's not regulated, it could be fine.
Well,
I mean, maybe it's
yeah.
a good thing.
I look at sports, like performance enhancing drugs in sports, and it's really to get the upper hand on someone else, right? You're trying to beat the guys that aren't enhanced. So what happens when you have a sport when everyone is enhanced? So
Right.
it goes back to, how do I become more enhanced? So now
Right.
you're making these kind of, I kind of think of like the X-Men, that guy that comes out of the tube and he's
Yeah.
just like, he just explodes. I feel like that you're going to see that a lot. And then you're going to see the guys that can only do one Olympics and then all of a sudden their heart explodes, right?
Well, that too. And, originally, to your point, it was exciting to see, who was it, Barry Bonds or whoever the guy was who got charged with it. I don't know if if he admitted or whatever. But, oh, well, he could hit the ball and everybody loves that because he was constantly hitting home runs and
Yeah.
it was going far. Okay, now, fast forward. Say everybody's hitting like that. Is it as exciting?
Baseball's a tough example because baseball's not so much about strength's obviously a factor, but to hit a ball, there's so much other factors. Like the ability to hit a ball is literally the difference between you in the MLB and not. Like it's a whole different style. It's like, it's an easier comparison to say if you were doing steroids in like the NBA or the NFL than the MLB.
Or swimming, whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
so now they're all swimming and they're getting phenomenal, or many of them are now getting phenomenal, hitting records every day. People
Yeah.
breaking records every day. Okay, that's exciting, for that particular sport. But when does it, lose interest? Now the expectation is, well, you're supposed to break a record every time
Yeah.
because you're supposed to be roided up. So I just don't,
Roided up.
I still go back to the original. I liked the Olympics when nobody was a professional. I liked it before the dream teams, to be honest. When they were unknown athletes who, were we just talking about with you or Ken? Maybe it was with
You
your
and
brother.
I talked about it a couple months ago, but yeah, these
Well, we were just talking about it with Ken, that when we
Oh.
were younger, the Olympics were,
nobodies.
you were not financed. These were people that got up at 5 a.m. before high school and they worked out all morning and then went back after school and mom and dad funded it. And now you have, and you competed against Russian teams that were financed by the Communist Party. They didn't get
Yeah.
paid, but everything they owned was from the Communist Party.
And that's when
So-
that's when America was like, "Hey, Michael Jordan and the Dream Team, get in there."
Well, that's when that happened. To me, I mean, I get it. It was an amazing thing for people to see that.
Right.
But to me, that's not the Olympics. That's a performance. Those are all paid athletes, legitimate athletes, and very talented. It's just, it's one thing to put Wayne Gretzky and all these superstars on the hockey team to beat the Russians. It's a whole other thing when it was a bunch of college kids
Right.
in Lake Placid, New York, no names that nobody knew, that won a gold medal. I mean, that's phenomenal. That to me is the American spirit, to come from nowhere. Anybody can do it. When you start throwing these super drugs and everything into it, now you're going to handpick people with a particular physical build. You're going to pump them up and you're going to, okay, I mean, you could do it, but to me, it takes something out of that, the
Pure-
spirit
yeah.
of the underdog, somebody who did it on his own without any help, with, other than his own will, determination, a good
Right.
coach or a team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I am interested. Like, I don't know why baseball hasn't just giving everyone steroids. Make that sport somewhat interesting, please. I want everyone bombing homers. I want pitchers throwing 120.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's say that happens. That would be exciting. But guess what? It was exciting when people were throwing 96 miles an hour. Now they're expected to.
Yeah.
Right? So next it's going to be what?
But they're doing it, but the difference is they're doing it naturally. Like to naturally be hitting 96 is impressive no matter who you are. If you are unnaturally hitting 96, it's like, okay.
But now everybody's going to be doing that. If you allow performance enhancements, now 96 is going to be nothing. They're going to expect that because everybody's doing it. Now you have to get up a notch.
Yeah, you're going to start at like 110, and then there's going to be that one guy that's like throwing 118. They're like, oh, give that guy a contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you have to agree once you go into a professional program that you will take steroids, whether you want to or not. That'll become part of your contract. All
right. So we had kind of a flop this week, Mother. It's not so much of a flop, but this has kind of been the biggest buzz of the week. So one of the new Justice League game came out. The Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Now, Michael has been. Michael told me the other day that he was like, Chris, I need someone to talk to about this because no one wants to listen to me. So remember a long time ago, kind of on our earlier podcasts, we talked about how fantastic the Batman Arkham games are.
Yes.
So the company that did this one, which is not Rockstar, it's
Kotaku?
No, Kotaku is the name of the news company. I'm trying to think of who the developer. Rocksteady, that's what it is. So they made this game that's apparently like a addition to the Arkham series.
Okay.
It's not okay. There's a lot of things to it, right? So the first off, it's not the same kind of game as the original Arkham games, which is the fighting style and whatever. This one's like a looter shooter. I won't explain to you what a looter shooter is, but everyone's kind of upset with the fact that basically this goes against every superhero aspect possible. So literally, these four morons, Harley Quinn, these other three, kill the Justice League. So Superman, Batman,
why?
the Flash. Everyone's pissed about it. But I mean, that's not really the article here. This is just this is kind of the example of what we're kind of about to lead into. But this is what's called I'm struggling. A live service game. There we go. Jeez, I was really struggling with that one. So with a live service game, that means, hey, we're going to give you a game. It's complete, but we're going to add DLC that continues the story. Now, the problem with that is that means, hey, we give you a mediocre story to complete for the first part. We're going to give you content that you can just do over and over and over and over again to like level up your character or whatever. There's no story or anything. It's just like go from here to here. It's something very boring. And then maybe you'll get a DLC that brings everything together. So downloadable content. Now, there's been a couple speculations on what it's going to be, but again, it's this you're paying $70 for a game. God. Well, that's standard, right? Ugh. So you're paying $70 for a game that isn't completely finished because they're going to continue the story in DLC, maybe. For 6 seasons, they're talking. So that's usually like 6. So one season is usually about 4 months, sometimes 5 months in the gaming world. So let's say that's about 2 years.
Which is not a bad marketing ploy because you get on the hook.
But you're banking on the fact that this company is going to make good DLCs that are worth the money. Because remember, you're paying for those DLCs as well. So it's $70 plus probably $20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 unless you get some expansion packs. Like sometimes they'll do passes that are $50 that give you all the DLCs. But again, you're banking on those DLCs being good. Now, what are the odds? What are the odds that 6 of those DLCs are going to be good? Right? Yeah, when the game itself is already decent from a base perspective. People are more so upset with the story that literally Harley Quinn just shoots Batman in the head and that's it. Like that's the whole
lame.
Yeah, it's incredibly lame. Like the whole thing's just incredibly poorly thought out. So
was that Mike's take on it too?
Yeah, Mike has been texting me like crazy. He's like, yo, Chris, I need someone to rant to. Mike and I were debating getting it because we do want to bank on those those 6 DLC being good, but also we're huge Arkham fans. A lot of people are huge Arkham fans. So it is technically canon and you want to see where it goes. But then when they, again, big spoiler in a second, you kill all the Justice League. So it's like, what do you do after that? Right?
Well, it is called Kill the Justice League.
Right, yeah. But they don't say if you succeed or not. But basically these 4, it's not even like big villains, right? It's not the Joker. It's not the Penguin. It's literally Harley Quinn, a guy with a boomerang, a shark, and Deadshot. Like they're kind of mediocre villains that just somehow take out all the Justice League.
I thought the Suicide Squad are they bad guys? Yes. I thought they were like okay.
Yes, the Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn is Joker's wife, right? Or girlfriend, right?
Okay, I didn't know if they were like a dark team that did good stuff, but they were not like honorable like Batman or whatnot. They used whatever means necessary.
Maybe a little bit, but either way, it's a real kick in the face to us Arkham players because it's still part of the storyline. But again, I won't go into like the whole why this game's bad. There's tons of reviews on it, but this is kind of the appetizer as to what our main article is about, which is the live service thing that we were just talking about. Disable my ad blocker. Oh my God. Hold on.
Live service.
So these guys just posted an article. Advertise. This is why. Hey, then you wonder why I have ad. Yeah. Now you wonder why I turn off ad block, right? Or turn on ad block because they're like, turn it off. And then they just give you 50 ads right in front. So anyway, so this is Delirium. Delirium's not a company. They're just calling the Delirium of live service. So they did a survey on a bunch of different companies on how they feel of live service games, which is what we just talked about. Apparently 95% of those surveyed are working on live service games. This is a disaster because that means in the next couple of years, we're going to give you a mediocre product. And this isn't just this. We're talking games in every genre, every whatever. We're going to give you part of a game for $70, and then maybe we already have your $70. So why am I going to, as a company, put more money into DLC? You're going to get mediocre at best. They're going to do the bare minimum for these DLCs. So that's why it's kind of because that way they don't lose money. They're constantly gaining money. At the end, you have this replayability as long as you have the server space for it, where people are just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again, doing a grind, whatever. And then maybe you'll give me a DLC that's decent. So over 500 studios said that they're going to do live service games. So
they must be making money on it. If this is the way, that's the only reason why.
Oh, 100%.
And they're churning out cash over mediocre games. Yeah.
So with that, it's like, I wouldn't mind it if it wasn't the full price of these games. Like the Justice League game, again, even though I don't like the story, it's fundamentally a good game. It's not $70. It's not $70 good. It's maybe $40 good. And then maybe DLC, which will add up to $70. But if you're going to make me pay $70 and then you're going to make me pay probably $20 for each DLC that goes, right? That's $120 just in DLC.
Right.
So all of a sudden I just paid $210 on a game. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it is for something that started off mediocre.
Right. So this is the way, to me, this is the video game companies figuring out the loophole of how can we make games more expensive.
Yeah. That's their goal.
We've always had DLC. And again, you had paid for DLC in the sense of like the big DLC that I can think of was back in the day you had Black Ops 2, which was you paid for new zombies maps. They were optional if you wanted those maps. You didn't need those maps. Now it's, hey, we're going to give you $70 of the story that's not finished, and you have to buy the DLC to learn the rest of the story. Right? I didn't pay. It's like paying for half of a movie and then paying another price for a movie ticket that's like, this is the end. Which you can honestly make the argument of like the Avengers movies. But I don't. But again, the difference is you're getting two full movies. You're getting 2 full 3-hour movies, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's one thing to say you're gonna make the person want to do the next level, or want to do the DLC. If it's required,
Yeah. And you have to
kinda
pay
like,
for it. Yeah.
yeah, it's kinda weird. They should at least offer a package of some sort if you wanna do it and get, but they don't have the DLC ahead of time, correct?
No. Sometimes they'll do what's called a season's pass, and a season's pass will allow you to buy, like, it's an extra $50, but it gives you that DLC. But again, you're banking on that DLC being good 6 times in
Right,
a row. There are very
right,
few games that I've played, and I've played thousands of games. There's very few games that I've played that have DLC that has been good consistently for its lifespan. Usually there's always one that's mediocre at best and
right.
not worth the money. So, yeah, it's it scares me that this is the way we're going, because now you're
Like I
paying for
said,
games and parts.
if they're making money on it. The only thing I could say is somewhere down the road, there's an opportunity for somebody, if they're all going this direction, if they had that, that one game that brings it back, that really wins people over, they'll put their money into that and forget about these
Right.
this other arrangement that's not getting very far and costs them a lot of money,
Right. But I
and go
would
back
rather,
to the
like,
regular doing games.
so we talked about Grand Theft Auto 6, which comes out in a couple years. That game's probably going to be at least $100, but they're not doing a live service. It's just, this is the game, and then we have a
Yeah,
multiplayer, blah, blah, blah.
right,
I don't mind paying the $100 because I know that game's going to last a decade at a minimum. That's like
right,
nothing in the span of a decade.
right.
But if you're going to charge me $200 over the span of 2 years tops, and then going, yeah, we're gonna close down this game now. So what now it's a live service, the servers are down, you could never play that game again.
Right,
That's the other way that we're going.
mm,
Uh-oh,
right.
Bobo. Is that Bobo? Is Bobo like, oh my God?
Yes, he's been very good, but he just decided now, "Yeah, okay, I wanna go up." I don't know
All right.
why, it's 9 o'clock, it's not even
Well,
walk time.
we could speed it up a little bit because we have a podcast question from
Oh, a
uh
podcast question.
yeah, podcast question. Hold on. I always do this where I forget to do the pop out. There we go. This is what I should have done from the beginning. Holy. All right, you ready
And
for
your
the,
lighting and your
yeah. We're still in the this is only our third Discord podcast, so cut me some slack here. So ready? This is an interesting one. My guess is this is someone that watched the podcast with Mr. Greta.
yeah.
If you had to guess which decade humans will land on Mars, which decade would it be? So this is a multi-question question. So I think that we'll land on Mars within the next 50 years. I'm going to say 2040. We're going to do it. Mark that down. The year 2040 to 2050 is when we're going to land on the moon.
On
Or land on
Mars.
Mars. Land on Mars, I mean, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, and speaking for Mr. Greta, let's wait till we land on the moon first.
See, I gave my thoughts on that. I think we've been to the moon. I just don't think the footage that we've seen is real. I think there's a lot more to
Well,
it.
we've had a huge pause in our aeronautical program.
Yeah.
It used to be very more robust, and we backed off a little bit.
Right.
The last president beefed it up with his
The
new,
interstellar team.
yeah, the new division of our defense team. But I don't know where that's going. I don't know if it's gotten any funding to continue.
Right.
But I don't know. It's tough to say because I don't feel like we've done anything noteworthy recently. We've been doing a lot of shuttle runs. We've
Yeah.
been launching. I hear more coming out of Elon Musk, right?
Right.
And
So can I pause you real
Starlink.
fast? Because
Yeah.
so the second part of this question is, will SpaceX be the first to do it? NASA, the Chinese space programs, India space programs, Russia, or Japanese? I think that to your point, I think out of all of them, Elon's doing the most with SpaceX from a actual perspective of like launching rockets into space. Whereas India and Japan, it's tough because I don't know, nor have I heard of any real advancements in people trying to go to space. And what I mean by that is I feel like we've been way more focused with, still, let's be honest, clearing up COVID, clearing up other problems in this country all over the world, not just this country, rather than getting to Mars. So I think Elon's kind
That's
of
what
the
I mean. I
forefront.
think it's been kind of laid back. The program has not had a lot of emphasis
Right.
anywhere, as far as I know. Every now and then you hear somebody launching something in one of the countries, and who was it? Was it India recently who made some advancements that nobody expected or
I
they've been
believe you're
working
right.
on something?
Yeah.
Yeah, or Pakistan, one of those places. So, yeah, I kind of feel like if it's going to happen, I think it'll be done privately. I think it'll be a private company that takes it that far. Just because nowadays there's so much, like China, who knows? China has so many economic problems. Do they have the money to even put it into their program? Um, I also think that there is some reality that we may see some joint work.
Yeah. That's what I was going to
Multiple
say.
countries working on it together, which I'd like to see. My only concern is certain countries, I wouldn't trust them with our information. Unfortunately, it has to be an ally that we could trust to advance it. But so you said 2040?
I think 2040 is when we'll get to Mars.
Mars, yeah. Well, I've seen more stuff about Mars with it had a lake, so it sustained life. Could have had oxygen at one point. Maybe it
It's
was
just hotter.
oxygen.
That's about it. I believe
Hotter.
it's hotter closer to the sun.
It's close to the sun, so we'd have to really perfect how do you go there and be closer to the sun.
Yeah.
That's
Because
heat shields and all that stuff.
yeah, it's a whole different world over there. It's like,
If you notice every movie, I was just watching Hidden Figures, right? That was the original John Glenn just orbiting the United States before we even got to the moon.
no, really?
He had a problem with the heat shield.
Yeah.
Apollo 13, problem with the heat shield. It's always the damn heat
It's
shield.
always the heat shield.
Going to Mars is going to be a little bit tougher because, now we're really using that
Yeah.
heat shield.
See, I think realistically what's going to happen is I think every government in the world is waiting for Elon to make some big breakthrough. And then they're going to be like, hey, we will buy that technology because we know it works. And then Elon will sell it or do some kind of joint venture with them.
I hate to say it, but they'll just take it from him, depending on which country. They'll just take it from him. They'll legislate it. They'll somehow manage to say,
Yeah.
"Oh, he can't have it." But having said that, yeah, that's probably what will happen. He's going to, or somebody is going to, finance it privately because he doesn't have the regulations and he doesn't have the constraints. He doesn't have to get funding authorized by Congress every year, et cetera, et cetera. So, or by some political body in another
Right.
country. And so he's in his position where as long as he has enough funding, he can advance it a lot more than anybody else.
Right.
2040 in 20 years to Mars, I don't know. I think it might take a little longer.
Really?
It's a whole other atmosphere. It's a whole other. I don't know if we know enough yet to safely put somebody out there.
But ChatGPT might know.
ChatGPT would know.
See, I think we get to the moon in 10, and then I think we get to Mars probably by 2040. I'm going to say mid 2045. I think it will be in my lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Won't be in mine.
No, I think it will. Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah, I don't plan to live that old.
Yeah. That's only 15 years.
Speaking of which, we lost Apollo Creed, right? 76 years old.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, good
Carl
segue.
Weathers.
Carl Weathers. I know Post Malone, dear God. Sylvester Stallone. See how I just confused those two? That was
Yes.
dyslexia at its finest. That was, whoa.
Or was it rhyming with a
Yeah,
whole...
yeah. So with Sylvester Stallone, I know he posted something yesterday on it, and yeah, it's really sad. We lost a guy that was, I mean, Rocky 1 through 4.
Yeah,
Predator.
that was icon
He
from
has
my childhood.
he has the iconic dab up with Arnold. You know when the two hands go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yep.
I mean, that should just be my desktop background. But all right.
Yeah.
So, Mother, next week we're not doing a podcast because I will be home. So actually, maybe we'll just do it from there. Right? I leave.
Yes.
We'll probably record it on Sunday. So yeah, guys, I won't be here that week. So I'll be posting clips, but I won't be posting any videos or doing any live streams. As you guys know, we started the walkthrough for Dark Souls 3, which is going phenomenally well, except for my internet, which cut out twice, which is not cool. Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. I think we're going to finish that playthrough by midweek this week. Then we'll take 2 days off, then from that game specifically. Then I'm home, and then I'm gone for the week. And then when I get back, if I'm with Dad, I probably won't stream, but we'll figure that out. I'm just giving everyone a little bit of a heads up on what the schedule is going to be, because it's going to be a little crazy, especially now that I won't have my laptop, my computer, but I will have my laptop. So we're probably going to record a bunch of podcasts while I'm there using the Yeti. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, Mom, I don't have much else to
We'll see if Mr. Grutta's around too.
Yeah, I will do Mr. Greta. I definitely want to do Papa while I'm there. And then, I don't know. Maybe we'll see who else wants to do it in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know Dad's not going to want to do another one. So, yeah.
You ran out of things to talk about. You got it all in one podcast.
Yeah, I got it all in one. So, yeah, I'd say I wanted to do Super Bowl with Dad, Kenny, and Mike, but I left for North Carolina a little earlier than I expected. So
yeah, and they're not all around, right?
Yeah, now Kenny's in Florida, Michael's at school, so it's just gonna be me, you, and Dad, or you, Dad, and me, and I, or whatever it is, for Super Bowl. So
as far as we know.
Yeah. So
no surprise guests yet.
Well, are the Greta's coming?
Yeah, they always come. That's given.
I guess it's not a surprise guest.
Actually, Dad was like, "Is it just gonna be us and the Greta's?"
Yeah. Well, no, as I said.
He wanted me to cut back on the food. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah, for the part. Are you kidding? We're going to have leftovers for days. But now that I'm a world-renowned chef, Mother, I might have to start cooking from when I'm home.
That's true.
All right. So, as I said, we'll end it there. The only thing we have to promote. So, social media, promo codes, stream links, Discord. There's really no other videos. I posted one video this week, but I'm sure you guys have seen that one. So, I won't promote it. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, Mom, I will see you soon. And then everyone else will see us in a couple weeks. So, nice job, Mom. Bye, guys.
Yep.